Throughout southern Asia, life is largely conditioned by the monsoon. After the heat of summer, clouds gather over the mountains of northern India, driven in across the Bay of Bengal. The wind rises sharply, sometimes to gale force. Then comes the rain, steady, relentless. The monsoon brings new life to the plains of Bengal, but it can bring disaster too. Water pours down from the hills. Cyclonic storms rush in from the sea. These are the forces of nature that make East Pakistan. This week, Echo looks at that crowded, turbulent province and its relations with its big brother, West Pakistan. This was the toll left by one of those cyclones. A tidal wave swept over the low-lying islands of the Ganges Delta last November. 3 days later, the survivors, threatened by cholera and typhoid, were starting to bury their dead. Officially, the tally was about 200,000. It may have been 500,000. When the water covered the crowded islands, there was nowhere to go. The rice crop was left a sodden mass as the floods receded. The people were homeless, hungry, and short of fresh drinking water. Only a helicopter could reach them. But helicopters were desperately hard to come by at short notice. Relief supplies poured into East Pakistan when the news of the disaster reached the outside world. The problem was to get them to the people quickly. The difficulties were immense, but the people of the eastern province blamed their own government far away in the west for the delay. Feelings ran high in Dhaka, the capital of East Pakistan. It is a city of about 500,000 people, Bengalis, very different in language, outlook and culture from the West Pakistanis. The two regions are more than 1,000 miles apart on the opposite sides of India. They were linked together in a makeshift arrangement 24 years ago at the time of the breakup of the British Empire in India. They had little in common but the Muslim faith and the fear of domination by Hindu India. And they have been somewhat uneasy bedfellows as a single state of Pakistan ever since. It took the general elections of last December to reveal the depth of this feeling. 20 parties, each with its own symbol, a hut, a set of scales, a boat, and so on, contested the election, which was to pave the way for a return to civil government after 13 years of military rule. In East Pakistan, it was the boat which seemed to be making headway. And when the votes were counted, this proved to be the case. The result was an overwhelming victory for the Awami League and its leader, Sheikh Mujib. He had cashed in on the bitterness left by the floods only 3 weeks before and won all but 2 of the seats allocated to East Pakistan in the new assembly and an absolute majority over the parties of the West. The magnetic Sheikh Mujib's 6-point program, which he has said he will defend at gunpoint if necessary, includes freedom for the province to handle its own taxation and make its own foreign trade and aid agreements. Only defense and the general supervision of foreign policy would be left to the central government in the West. It amounts to virtual self-government for the East. East Pakistan is a land of great rivers. It lies at the mouths of the Ganges and the Brahmaputra and lives by, on and in the water. Its crops, jute, tea, rice, wood pulp and teak, come down by river to the markets of Dhaka and the port of Chittagong. Fish is a large part of the people's staple diet. Jute is the country's principal export and a major source of complaint by the East against the West. For the people of the East say they are making a big contribution to Pakistan's foreign currency earnings and that the West is taking the profits. Many kinds of fruit grow well here. Bitter gourds, bananas, mangoes, pineapples and mandarins. Every year, East Pakistan produces 10 million tons of rice, but the population is so densely packed that rice still has to be imported. Inland, tea is the most important crop. Tea bushes will not grow in standing water or survive frost, but they do well on the lower slopes of the hills that border Assam. None of this, however, does much to raise the standard of living of one of the poorest peoples in the world. Religion is the common bond between the two wings of Pakistan. Great mosques in the principal cities of East and West bear witness to the fact that the Muslim faith has held sway there for many centuries. This one in the West, the Badshahi Mosque in Lahore, claims to be one of the largest in the world. Muslims flock there to pray. Visitors of many nations and creeds go to admire its superb architecture and decoration. Also in Lahore, the world-famous Shalimar Gardens. Part of the inheritance of the great Mughal Empire, these gardens emphasize one of the differences between East and West Pakistan. That running water is a thing to be cherished in the West, a scarcity, a luxury, in what is otherwise a dry and hostile land. The plains of West Pakistan are intensely hot. The temperature in June rises to 40 degrees centigrade. Without irrigation, much of it would be total desert. It's a sparsely populated land, 6 times the size of East Pakistan, but the population is smaller. Great mountains lie to the north and west. Roads are few, and transport is sometimes perilous. The way up to the Khyber Pass, the ancient trade route through the mountains to Afghanistan. Pakistan still looks westwards for her trade, searching for markets in Iran and the Arab world. The people of this tough frontier country have a long warlike tradition, and it is here, among the Pathans, that Pakistan finds many recruits for her army. East Pakistan resents this domination and resents paying for it. Pathans and Punjabis have formed the backbone of the army since the days of British rule, and they still do. Not long ago, another ancient trade route was reopened through the Himalayas to China. The Pakistan government, implacably hostile to India, has good relations with its other powerful neighbor, Communist China. Only the Chinese might stand to gain if East Pakistan broke away from the Western Wing or collapsed into anarchy. Pakistan has worked hard to build up its industry. Ever since partition left it the loser, with most of the existing industry going to the new India. It is another Eastern complaint that most of this development has taken place in West Pakistan, leaving the gap between the two wings to widen still more. Wages in Karachi are not very high, but they're higher than Dhaka's. New industries flourish. Steel and oil products, electrical goods, rubber and plastics, glass and pottery. They crowd around the cities of the West, like Lahore, which is also an important commercial centre, the chief university city, and the capital of the Punjab. This is the stronghold of the Pakistan People's Party, led by Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, who won the election in the West. Without some prospect that he and Sheikh Mujib can agree on a constitution, the military ruler, President Yahya Khan, admits that he can't see his way to hand power over to an elected government.
Well, the country is being run by one man's will, martial law on the land. And unless they make the constitution, I'll pass the sovereignty to them. Until then, one man's will is there. That's true.
Now, as President Yahya Khan's army imposes martial law on East Pakistan, the gates of industry, government and education are closed. Economic and civil life has come to a standstill. The streets of Dhaka have echoed with gunfire as soldiers seek out members of the Awami League, now outlawed. The university has been shelled and burned, but none of the root problems have been solved. and the people of East Pakistan are not likely to forget them.